Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 425, A Chip Off the Old Brock. The episode begins with Ash and the gang deciding to stop in a little clearing in the forest. Although Ash didn't want to take a break fully, because he knew that his battle in the battle arena was coming up soon, so he decided to challenge Brock to a practice battle, and Brock accepted, as Ash sent out his Grovyle to battle, and Brock sent out his Mudkip. The battle started off with Mudkip trying to pounce on Grovyle, although Grovyle was able to use its speed to quickly dodge out of the way, and then Ash had Grovyle follow up with a Bullet Seed, but Mudkip was able to dodge this, leaving Max and Pikachu, who were watching the battle on a fallen log, impressed by both Grovyle and Mudkip's speed and power so far. Ash then told Grovyle to use a Leaf Blade, and Mudkip was knocked back, but not defeated, by the powerful attack, and gritting its teeth, Mudkip managed to keep its grip on the ground and not fall over, even after the super effective attack. Mudkip really wanted to prove it could beat Grovyle, because out of pure will, Mudkip suddenly started to glow, much to Ash and the gang's surprise and amazement, as Max commented that Mudkip was about to evolve, and Mudkip finally did just that, evolving into Marshtomp after all of these episodes. Amazing Ash and the gang by Mudkip's new transformation, with Brock congratulating Mudkip on finally evolving into Marshtomp. May was amazed as well, and decided to scan Marshtomp on her Pokedex to learn more about it. Grovyle and Marshtomp then stood each other down to examine each other, and out of nowhere, without even a command by Brock, Marshtomp fired off an attack that it had just learned upon evolving, Mudshot, aiming right for Grovyle. However, the attack missed, since Grovyle dodged, much to Max and May's amazement. We're also shocked that Marshtomp learned a new move. Anyways, the Mudshot goes right past Ash, even though it would have hit him, but Ash was able to lift himself up to dodge just in time, and as a result, the Mudshot ended up hitting a poor Flaffy, which was standing behind some nearby bushes. Ash and the gang soon noticed the now injured Flaffy, and they all rushed over to Flaffy, along with Marshtomp and Grovyle, and they found a stressed out girl, the Flaffy's trainer, sitting next to it, asking if it was okay. Apologizing to Flaffy for not being able to protect it, implying that maybe she was doing something with the basket that she had dropped next to her, and it prevented her from protecting Flaffy. While the Flaffy's trainer did her best to tend to it, Ash and the gang, Grovyle and Marshtomp, emerged from the other end of the bushes, and Ash apologized to the trainer for the damage that they did to Flaffy. Max reveals that Ash and Brock were having a battle, and Brock's Marshtomp happened to use a ground-type attack, Mudshot, that was super effective against electric attacks, or electric types, like Flaffy. Brock then apologized for the situation as well, offering to get some medicine for Flaffy, saying he had some medicine in his backpack, but the trainer declines Brock's offer, and barely even responds at that. She just said, "No, I'm good." Despite the fast decline, though, the girl didn't seem angry at Ash and the gang, or Brock for that matter, and just excused herself as she picked up her Flaffy and ran off with it, eventually reaching a mysterious drugstore. Right after the girl and her Flaffy went into this drugstore, Ash and the gang arrived as well, since they had decided to follow, and were shocked at how big and beautiful the place looked, and were also a bit skeptical, because, it was a fucking drugstore, but unbeknownst to them, the drugstore was run by the trainer, whose name was Mariah's grandmother, Katie. So yeah, Mariah's grandmother ran the place. Katie then gives a mysterious healing potion to Flaffy, who drinks the entire potion through a bottle, and after drinking it all, Marie smiled and looked as good as new, fully healed, as Mariah then thanked her grandmother Katie. Ash and the gang saw all this happen, and were amazed that Flaffy was healed just in 1 second flat, but were happy Flaffy was better. Mariah, once again, wasn't rude to Ash and the gang at all, but was simply just focused on hugging her Flaffy, also glad that it was better. Brock and Ash immediately apologized again, introducing themselves. May and Max then introduced themselves as well, while Ash explained that he was training for his upcoming battle in the battle arena. That's why he and Brock were battling in the first place, as practice, and Ash also explained the entire situation to Katie. Mariah responds to Ash and Brock's apologies by introducing herself and saying that everything was alright since Flaffy was fine now, and that's all that mattered. Katie, who was busy sorting out some potions on a shelf, turned to Ash to ask him if he really was participating in the battle frontier, since not a lot of people did, and Ash confirms that he was. So Katie introduces herself and wishes Ash luck in the battle frontier. Not wanting to be shown up by Ash, Brock jumps in and clarifies that he was a Pokemon breeder. As you may expect, Brock immediately fell in love with Mariah the second that he saw her, and now that he clarified that he was a breeder, he figured that Mariah would be impressed by this, so he took the opportunity to grab her hands, rushing up to her, and started to flirt with her as much as he could, and developed hearts in his eyes as he did. Marshtomp then developed hearts in its eyes too, having fallen in love with Flaffy as it ran up to Flaffy and grabbed her hands, confusing Flaffy. Max, May, and Ash were embarrassed by Brock and Marshtomp's behavior, as they only went more and more insane, literally declaring their love for Flaffy and Mariah, surprising Flaffy and Mariah even more. So May and Max decided to take action, while Ash just stands there, dragging off both Brock and Marshtomp by their ears, with Max dragging off Brock and May dragging off Marshtomp. While Brock and Marshtomp were being dragged away, Ash decided to keep Katie and Mariah occupied by mentioning how he was impressed at the medicine that practically magically healed Flaffy, with Mariah explaining to Ash that her grandma Katie made the best medicine for Pokemon. Yeah, I don't know about the best, but I can acknowledge that it was probably pretty good. Just then, a boy comes in with an orange-looking potion, accompanied by his Ampharos. Ash instantly turned his attention to the mysterious orange potion, as the boy asked Katie to examine it, claiming it was an energy elixir. He basically trusted Katie to know if a potion was good or not, since she made good ones. So, sure enough, Katie tastes a little bit of the elixir, as Brock recovered and wondered with Ash what the result would be, and Katie confirms that it simply just wasn't quite good enough, noting that the boy didn't mix the cherry very well, so she couldn't sell it. The boy tried to smile to make it look like he wasn't that disappointed as he took his elixir back, but he couldn't hide his disappointment, and admitted his fear that he may never improve, although Mariah startled the boy, telling him to focus on the positives, being that the only criticism Katie had was about the cherry berry. Everything else was pretty good, and stated that he could always just try again, and assured him that she was sure he would do better next time. Just then, the boy notices Ash and the gang, and asks who they are, specifically asking Katie, assuming that they may have been acquaintances of hers, since they were in her shop after all, but Mariah was the one to introduce Ash and the gang to the boy, and she also introduced the boy as Macaulay, and she clarified that the two of them worked at Katie's medicine shop. Meanwhile, outside of the shop, Team Rocket were spying on it from some bushes, using their binoculars to really get a good look at the store, admiring its exterior, and they giggled amongst themselves as they plotted to break in and steal all of the medicine inside so that they could resell it for more profit, with Jessie being the one who came up with this plan in the first place. Katie and Mariah were the first ones to come out of the drugstore after Katie had decided to make some more medicine, with Mariah having to go outside the drugstore to do this. So Katie and Mariah were about to leave to go make medicine, as Mariah told Macaulay to watch over the drugstore while the two of them were gone. Just then, though, Brock came out of the drugstore as well, and said that he wanted to see the medicine-making progress, and watch what Katie and Mariah did to make the medicine, claiming that it would make him a better breeder, practically begging to see the process. Mariah and Katie permitted Brock to come with, and this got May and Max excited, as they wanted to go as well, so Mariah permitted them to go too, and stepped out of the drugstore. Though not before asking Ash if he wanted to come along too, but Ash actually denied, saying that he and Pikachu were going to get some training in for their next frontier battle at the battle arena. Katie and Mariah say that it was totally fine that Ash didn't want to come, and Katie, Mariah, Brock, May, and Max all leave. Mariah thought that they were going into the woods to get some more materials for potions, but Katie actually led everyone to her storeroom, where she proceeded to use a wooden masher to mash together some green herbs and berries of some kind to make a green potion. Eventually, when the ingredients were all mushed into a watery paste of a potion, and Brock took notes during all this to become a better breeder by learning about techniques to mash up these ingredients, Katie put the watery paste of a potion into a bottle, while May and Max also watch intently, and Katie clarifies to Brock that he should make sure to add this to his notes, saying that a little extra kick was needed for her potion, such as a Pokemon's electricity, and she then demonstrates by calling out her Mareep. And next, Katie puts a cork with metal rods sticking in and out of it into the potion bottle before ordering Mareep to use a thunder, which was drawn to the metal rods and into the bottle. And Mareep uses this thunder that was drawn to the metal rods for a long-ass time, as Brock, May, and Max watch in silence and amazement, as the thunder makes the potion change color, becoming darker. Mariah and Flappy were watching as well, as just then a ripple in the potion appeared in the bottle, and because of this, Katie knew that the potion had reached the perfect amount of thunder inside it, and quickly told Mareep to stop, and it did, and thanked Mareep for doing its job that she had requested of it, claiming that now the potion was perfect. Brock, May, Max, Mariah, Mareep, Katie, and Flappy all sit down at a table so Brock could further examine the bottle with the potion in it to take down some more notes, including something Mariah and Katie said, which was that Katie had invented the whole thunder idea of adding the thunder to a potion, but it was still an experimental process, since the hard part about using the thunder was determining how much electricity should be added. And so basically, if you added too much electricity or too little electricity, the potion wouldn't be in its perfect state. Brock was impressed by this recipe nonetheless, while Katie handed the potion to Mariah so she could put it in the closet in the storeroom that they were in, now that Brock was done his notes. We then cut back to the drugstore, which Macaulay, as well as his Pokemon Ampharos, were watching over as instructed by Mariah. Suddenly, though, two customers walked into the drugstore. These customers actually being James, dressed as an old man, and Jessie, dressed as a smart-looking woman. Apparently, they were a couple. As for Meowth, he was disguised in a Snorlax outfit, actually sitting inside the outfit with Wobbuffet, so the two of them were in the costume together. Macaulay then greeted Team Rocket as they presented their supposed six Snorlax to Macaulay, even though it was just Meowth and Wobbuffet in disguise. And Jessie and James explained that they knew that their quote-unquote Snorlax was sick because it was horribly thin for its species, and it needed some special food, along with special medicine. Suddenly, without even waiting for the okay from Macaulay, Jessie and James start emptying the shelves, taking every bit of medicine and food and whatever directly from the shelves and stuffing it into the Snorlax costume. Macaulay was in shock from the amount of shit that Team Rocket was taking, so he tried to grab some himself to prevent Team Rocket from taking all of it, but Jessie just grabbed him and threw him and his handful of medicine and food into the Snorlax's mouth as well. Well, Snorlax, quote-unquote, because when Macaulay was inside the Snorlax costume, he immediately saw Meowth and Wobbuffet inside and realized that it was just a costume and not a real Snorlax. Faster than fucking hell, Macaulay quickly jumps out of the Snorlax costume and tries to shout that Team Rocket were thieves, but Jessie and James simply grab the Snorlax costume with all the stuff in it and run off. Although Macaulay follows them with his Ampharos, shouting thief, 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 as he does, to alert anyone nearby, and sure enough, he alerts Ash, who was training with his Grovyle and Pikachu nearby. Once Ash didn't just hear Macaulay and Ampharos, and he actually saw them giving chase to Team Rocket, Ash took action and told Grovyle to use Bullet Seed on Team Rocket, which caused Team Rocket to trip. And Team Rocket tripping not only kicks up a whole bunch of dust, but also it causes their disguises to fall off, revealing their true identities. Macaulay was able to catch up to Team Rocket and quickly tried to grab the Snorlax costume, demanding all the shit in it back, but Jessie refused to give it back, and her, James, Meowth, and Wobbuffet all pulled the Snorlax costume in their way, while Ampharos and Macaulay pulled it in their way. Essentially, they were doing a tug of war. Just then, Brock, Max, May, Mariah, Katie, and Marshtomp showed up, since Brock had sent Marshtomp out, and he quickly told Marshtomp to use Mudshot, seeing the situation. This Mudshot causes Team Rocket to lose grip of the Snorlax costume and slip backwards, falling down a cliff, directly into a boat that was sitting in the water below. The boat then starts to sail backwards. Jessie and Meowth were upset by this, as it meant that they wouldn't be able to get the Snorlax costume. But James, on the other hand, was happy, because it meant that with this boat, they could make a slow and steady getaway, because the boat would move slowly along the river. Just then, though, the tide of the river increases, and this makes James unhappy, as the fierce tide of the river carries them over a waterfall, leaving Ash confused as to where Team Rocket went, as he was watching Team Rocket in their boat, but didn't see the waterfall. But at least Team Rocket was gone now. Then, Mariah and her Flaffy, who had seen the tug-of-war between Team Rocket and Macaulay, ran up to Macaulay and his Ampharos, asking if they were okay. And Macaulay confirmed that he was fine, and he had managed to save all of the medicine and food, and was very glad about this. Although Mariah blushed, as she admitted that she didn't really care about the medicine, she was just making sure that Macaulay was okay. May and Max saw Mariah blushing and looked at each other, noting that they were thinking the same thing. Mariah obviously had a crush on Macaulay. However, Macaulay was fucking clueless, of course. He probably didn't even think that it was possible for a girl to like him or some shit, because he had such low confidence. But anyways, we then cut to later that night, where Ash and the gang were at the drugstore still, since they'd been invited to stay the night if they wanted, as a reward for Brock helping out with getting the medicine and food back. Ash and the gang were currently sitting around a table in the drugstore, each with a cup of coffee, all by themselves, and sitting on mats. Brock was currently brushing his newly evolved Marshtomp very happily, while blushing and thinking of his future plans with Mariah, telling his Marshtomp that that Brock and Mariah would make a perfect couple, so Marshtomp should get together with Flappy, and then they could have two perfect couples, and Marshtomp liked this idea. As for Ash, he was currently polishing his Pokeballs, and was telling Pikachu that they would be at the battle arena soon, and asked Pikachu if he was ready for the battle at the battle arena, and Pikachu nodded. Just then, though, Ash's attention turned to the window, since he noticed a bright light coming from outside the window in one of the storerooms, identifying it as electricity. Specifically, the room was the same one that Brock, Katie, May, and Max, and Mariah were in earlier, making that potion. Ash informed Brock, May, and Max of what he saw, so the four of them decided to go up to the storeroom and investigate, and when they looked inside through a window, they saw Macaulay and his Pokemon Ampharos, which surprised Ash and the gang, because they for sure thought that something suspicious was going on, but no, Macaulay was just having his Ampharos use Thunder. And when Ash and the gang looked closer through the window, through all the bottles of potions, they saw that Macaulay was actually having his Ampharos use the same technique that Katie was using earlier, where she had her Mareep use Thunder on the potion, because Macaulay was trying to perfect his potion, believing that it could only be perfected with the electricity. But just as Katie had warned, too much electricity was not beneficial, and unfortunately, Ampharos put a little too much electricity in as the bottle exploded, sending the glass shards of the bottle and the potion itself all over the floor. Ash screamed in fear as a bolt of electricity that was conducted by the corkscrews in the bottle before it exploded was sent flying his way, along with some of the shards of glass. But Ash was able to dodge the hit just in time, along with May, Max, and Brock, although the noise that Ash made alerted Macaulay to their presence. May then mentioned to Macaulay that it was too late for him to practice his potion making, but Macaulay was determined to make a perfect potion, just as Katie was able to, and he wanted to be as good as Katie no matter how much practice he had to put in. Macaulay then grabbed a broom and pan and swept all the shards of glass inside the pan, remembering that he was doing exactly that several years ago when he and Mariah were kids, and the same situation happened when he was trying to perfect his potion. We then see a flashback while Macaulay explains some shit. Basically, he and Mariah had known each other since they were kids, and had been watching Katie make potions since they were both kids. And Katie would even show the two of them her thunder technique to perfect her potions, which would shine in the sunlight. Macaulay explained that he really wanted to make potions as good as Katie's, but he couldn't. He would always fail, no matter how hard he tried. The flashback then ended as Katie walks in, and admits that she had been eavesdropping on Macaulay and had seen his progress, admitting that Macaulay was literally just one step away from being able to master making potions. The one thing he needed was confidence, which he lacked. Once he had confidence, he would definitely be able to make the perfect potion. With that, Macaulay promised to be more confident in himself, but right as he said this, he was interrupted when an earthquake could be felt throughout the building. So, Ash and the gang, Katie, Macaulay, Marshtomp, Ampharos, and Katie's Mareep, who she had brought with her, run out of the building. The ground in front of them seemed fine, but when they turned around, they saw that the drugstore was being lifted off the ground and floating away. How would this happen, you may ask? Well, Team Rocket was lifting the whole drugstore up with their Meowth balloon and a little chain that they connected the drugstore to, because they had decided to just take the entire drugstore instead of what was inside it, laughing at their stupidity for not thinking of this earlier. Action Gang, Katie, and Macaulay were thankful that they at least were all not out of the drugstore when it got lifted up, but then they remembered that Mariah was still inside the drugstore because she had been there with Action Gang, just in another room, and she called for help from everyone below. Action Gang, Katie, and Macaulay simply panicked in response, as they didn't know what to do, because Team Rocket simply continued to float away, deciding to do their motto. However, there was a new addition to their motto, much to Action Gang's surprise, because Chimeco was now gone, and James's new Mime Jr. was the one who finished the motto, aside from Chimeco. Max wondered where Team Rocket got Mime Jr. from, not realizing that they got it from his grandparents. But anyways, right as Team Rocket's motto ended, Mariah called for help once again, and in response, Macaulay desperately climbed up onto the roof of the storeroom and jumped over, managing to land on the building that Team Rocket was lifting away, the drugstore. Macaulay's Ampharos jumped with him as well, and the two of them made it to the front door and inside the drugstore, where Mariah and her Flaffy were currently taking shelter as best they could, and Macaulay assured Mariah that he would do his best to save her. Mime Jr. was currently sitting on Wildfet's head, as Jessie was the first one to notice Macaulay enter the drugstore, and Jessie was angry at this, as she ordered Meowth to shake Macaulay off, and Meowth, angry as well, obliged as he used a remote control, which swung the drugstore rapidly from side to side in an attempt to shake Macaulay off, thanks to several switches that Meowth pressed on the remote control. Despite the shaking, however, Ampharos and Macaulay were able to stay clinging on to the drugstore. They almost fell out, but Mariah and her Flaffy were holding on to them to prevent them from falling out fully. Unfortunately, something bad still happened while Mariah was trying to pull Macaulay back to his feet, as all of the medicine from the shelves in the drugstore fell and hit the ground, shattering. Obviously, much to Macaulay and Mariah's dismay. Jessie then orders Meowth to fly higher so that they could escape quicker and try and shake Macaulay off at the same time. So James presses a button on the remote, which causes the Meowth balloon to get higher power transmitted to its burners, which makes it fly higher. Then see Ash and the gang and Katie, who were trying to chase after the Meowth balloon on foot, but Katie saw that this wasn't working because Team Rocket was going so fast. So Katie suggested that Brock have his Marshtomp use Mud Shot on the Meowth balloon to slow Team Rocket down. So Marshtomp does this. But Team Rocket just laughed as Meowth presses another button on his remote control to deploy a protective dish in front of the Meowth balloon that the mud shot hits and gets reflected off of. And this mud shot, although it hits Action Gang and Katie and Marshtomp, it particularly injures Pikachu and Mareep, with me getting worried knowing that ground type attacks especially hurt electric types. Ash and Katie were obviously worried for their Pokemon too, and they picked them up, with Ash especially worried since Pikachu had both fallen off of his shoulder and got hit by the mud shot. Katie then gets an idea as she calls out to Mariah and Macaulay in the drugstore for some medicine for the injured electric Pokemon, but Mariah and Macaulay regretfully informed Katie that all of the medicine fell down and was smashed and destroyed, which made Katie immensely angry as she yelled at Team Rocket for being the one to cause this, but Team Rocket just laughed at what they called Katie's nonsense. Once Team Rocket's laughing fest was done, Jessie told Meowth to increase the power of the burners even more so they could fly away and escape even faster. However, James's Mime Jr. wanted to be useful, so it jumped up onto Meowth and onto the remote control that he was using and started to press all the buttons at random, hoping that would help, but it actually did the opposite. Since Mime Jr.'s happy playing had caused the Meowth balloon to shake around rapidly and the rocket boosters to get overpowered and die out, with Macaulay, who had managed to get fully pulled up into the drugstore, realizing that one of the burners went before the other one. So that was another reason why the balloon was shaking out of control. Inside the Meowth balloon, Team Rocket were panicking as they'd all fallen over into the basket and thought that the balloon was coming down. James managed to grab hold of Mime Jr. and held it close so it wouldn't mess around with the controls anymore, but it was useless. Back inside the drugstore that was being shaken by the falling Meowth balloon, Macaulay got an idea when he realized that 2 bottles of medicine didn't smash, so he grabbed them. Macaulay then explained his plan to Mariah, admitting that normally, to help out electric Pokemon that had been hurt by ground attacks, the magic Sun Curtain Dew was used for the appropriate healing potion, but they didn't have access to that, so Macaulay had to make do and act quickly, deciding to combine the 2 potions that were left. And then Macaulay would have his Ampharos use Thunder on the potion to perfect it, and then he would throw the potion to Katie and Ash, and they would heal Mareep and Pikachu, and that way maybe they could deal with Team Rocket from the ground. So, while James and Meowth had gotten up and were trying to fix the balloon's burners to stop it from crashing, Ampharos had started to use its Thunder on the now combined potions, and it was struggling to use its Thunder to the perfect amount, but Macaulay encouraged his Pokemon to keep trying and do its best. Unfortunately, it still wasn't going well, but just then, Mariah stepped in with her Flaffy, per Macaulay's suggestion, and helped out both of the Pokemon using Thunder on the same potion bottle, as Macaulay thanked her. Macaulay and Mariah were practically begging their Ampharos and Flaffy to give it their all, as Jessie, Wobbuffet, and Mime Jr. had now gotten up, and Jessie was scolding panicking James and Meowth for not being able to fix the burners properly. Just then, back in the drugstore, Macaulay saw a ripple go through the potion, so he quickly ordered both Pokemon to stop using Thunder, and they did. The potion was now perfected. Just then, though, Meowth and James were actually able to fix the burners on the Meowth balloon, so they officially declared that the balloon was ready to escape once again. So Jesse ordered Meowth to up the power of the burners, and he did so, as the balloon started to fly away once again. However, as Ash and the gang and Katie were panicking at Team Rocket's getaway, Macaulay, Mariah, Ampharos, and Flaffy emerged at the edge of the drugstore, and Macaulay quickly threw the newly made potion down to Katie, and since it was perfected, she quickly gave the potion to both Pikachu and Mareep, healing them up. Though only doing this when she examined the potion and was amazed to see that Macaulay finally made something good. It was the perfect color, the color of literal perfection. Back in the Meowth balloon, Team Rocket were laughing, confident in their victory as they continued to fly off in the Meowth balloon at increasing speed, although Ash and Gang and Katie were quickly able to catch up to the Meowth balloon, and Pikachu and Mareep fired off a double Thunderbolt attack, with each of them firing a Thunderbolt at the same time. But Team Rocket weren't worried whatsoever, since Meowth just pressed the remote again to deploy the same deflection device that reflected the mudshot from Brock's Marshtomp to reflect the Thunderbolt right back at Ash and Gang and Katie. Thankfully for Ash and the Gang and Katie, though, they were able to dodge the Thunderbolt that was reflected back at them just in time. Then we cut to the drugstore, still being lifted up by the Meowth balloon, as Mariah and Macaulay order their Ampharos and Flaffy to use their own Thunderbolts from the edge of the drugstore, which causes the Meowth balloon and the drugstore to crash to the ground, causing a whole bunch of dust to fly up. But Mariah and Macaulay and Flaffy and Ampharos quickly escape from the drugstore, reuniting with Ash and the Gang and Katie. Everyone then noticed Team Rocket laying on the ground, trying their best to recover from their wounds, as Ash told Mariah and Macaulay to let him handle Team Rocket, as thanks for Macaulay and Mariah helping save Pikachu. So Ash and the Gang surround Team Rocket and challenge Team Rocket to a battle. Team Rocket definitely wanted to battle, because maybe they could at least try and steal Pikachu during the battle, so Jesse sent out his Viper, and James sent out his Cacnea, who of course hugged him first, prickling him. James managed to get Cacnea off of him, and ordered it to use Needle Arm, as Jesse ordered his Viper to use Poison Tail. Brock refused to let the Pokemon attack though, as he told his Marshtomp to use Water Gun, which pushed Viper and Cacnea back into Team Rocket, weakening Viper, Cacnea, and Team Rocket. Seeing that Ash and the Gang may need help, Macaulay and Mariah decided to help, holding hands as they ordered a Thunderbolt from both Ampharos and Flaffy, much to Brock's dismay, because he didn't like to see another dude with Mariah, obviously. To join in on this attack, Ash and Katie both ordered the Pikachu and Mareep to use Thunderbolt as well, and the combined force of all four of these Thunderbolts was enough to send Team Rocket blasting off, with Viper and Cacnea being blasted off first, followed by Jesse, James, and Meowth, and then followed by Wobbuffet and Mime Jr., leaving Ash and the Gang, Mariah, and Macaulay all amazed by the power of four Thunderbolts. Katie then looks down at the remainder of the potion that was inside the bottle, even though there wasn't much left, and Katie states that she was impressed that Macaulay was able to create a perfect potion. Although Mariah informs Katie that she, Ampharos, and Flaffy all helped him, also adding that Macaulay's confidence was a major factor in helping him perfect the potion, just as Katie had said. Katie then congratulates Mariah and Macaulay on being able to make a perfect potion in order to stop Team Rocket, and Mariah and Macaulay admit that they couldn't have done it without each other, as Flaffy and Ampharos also snuggle up close to each other, implying that Macaulay and Mariah definitely both had feelings for each other, and Ampharos and Flaffy did as well. Then Katie declared that, seeing as Macaulay and Mariah were definitely fit to be her successors, she was going to retire and give the drugstore to them. When Brock and Marshtomp hear this, they sigh in sadness and look down to the ground, heartbroken, since now Macaulay and Mariah would be spending their entire lives together, so they would definitely end up proposing and getting married to each other. Ash, Max, and May just laugh at Marshtomp and Brock's shock and despair they were feeling. Ash then asks Pikachu if he was ready to fight at the battle arena, and Pikachu nods. So the next day, once everyone had gotten some rest, it was time for Ash and the Gang to continue on their journey to the battle arena. So Katie gave Ash some directions on how to get to the battle arena, and also gave May a bag full of medicine that she had kept in the storeroom as a reward for Ash and the Gang helping them defeat Team Rocket. And May thanked Katie for all the medicine, saying that it would really help other Pokemon in a pinch. The episode then ends with Ash and the Gang saying goodbye to Katie, Mariah, and Macaulay, as Katie, Mariah, and Macaulay all wish Ash luck in his battle arena battle. Ash and the Gang walk over to the battle arena, with Ash confident that he could win.